They say love is supposed to be freedom, but what if the woman you love can pause you, mute you, rewind your memories, and control you like a remote? Before I begin, where are you watching from? Drop your city, village, or country in the comments. And if you believe in real love, not spells and shadows, subscribe and share this story with someone who still thinks beauty is enough. My name is Dayo. Before her, I lived simply. Quietly. I was a palm wine tapper by day, helping mama in the evenings, and by night. I slept like a man with no enemies. No past, no prophecy, no drama. Just peace. Until she came. The first time I saw Erefa, it was under the village baobab tree during a rainstorm so heavy that even the goats hid under huts. She didn't hide. She stood there, bareheaded, wrapped in red, staring into the sky like it belonged to her. The lightning cracked just behind her, but she didn't flinch. She just turned and looked at me. That look, it didn't feel like I was seeing her. It felt like I was being chosen. 3 days later, she showed up at Mama's hut. Said she wanted to buy palm oil. But Mama told me later, she never asked for the oil. She asked for me. Mama, that woman. She watches like a snake with no tongue. Be careful, Dayo. I said, Mama, you don't even know her. Mama, that's why I'm worried. The spirits know her more than we do. Still, we began to talk. And her voice was like someone walking barefoot over silk. Slow. Smooth. Dangerous. She never raised her voice. She never laughed loudly. She didn't need to. Her silence filled the room more than anyone else's shouting. Because when she touched my hand, my heartbeat obeyed her rhythm. We got married beneath the moon, surrounded by strange winds and a sudden eclipse. She insisted we didn't need a pastor. Just fire and oaths. Erefa, do you love me? I said, yes. Erefa, then give yourself to me. I said, all of me. Erefa, everything. I said yes. I said yes. But deep inside, a small voice whispered. You didn't choose her, Dayo. She chose you. Our wedding night was quiet. No music. No drums. Just her eyes, watching me while I slept. In the middle of the night, I woke up to drink water. But my body wouldn't move. My eyes opened. But my arms, legs, mouth, frozen. I was awake, but locked. And there she was. Standing over me. Smiling. She placed her palm on my forehead and whispered. Sleep. And just like that, the world faded. The next morning, I woke up sweating. She was frying yam. I said, Erefa, did anything happen last night? Erefa, smiling, you talked in your sleep. I said, what did I say? Erefa, nothing important yet. I tried to shrug it off. Maybe I was dreaming. Maybe it was just stress. But then it happened again. And again. And again. Each time, I lost more of myself. One afternoon, I argued with her. I said I was going to the village square to meet my cousin. She said no. I shouted. You can't control me. She looked up from her mat and whispered. Can't I? Next thing I knew, my hand slapped my own face. Hard. It wasn't rage. It wasn't guilt. It was her. I ran to Mama's house that night. Mama, you look pale. I said, Mama, she's doing something to me. Mama, I told you. That woman doesn't walk alone. She carries a shadow behind her. I said, what do I do? Mama, you need help from the one-eyed man. But be warned, once you see the truth, you can't unseen it. I went home and tried to pack. I was ready to run. Ready to be free. But she touched my shoulder and said, You're tired. Lie down. And I did. No resistance. No fear. just obedience. I used to think love was about sacrifice. Now I know. Sometimes, it's about surrender. And surrendering to the wrong person. That's how you disappear. This is only the beginning. Next, I'll tell you what I saw when I followed the one-eyed man into the woods. But before I do, tell me where you're watching from. City, village, continent. Drop it in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe and share this story. Because the deeper I went into her darkness, the more I realized. She didn't just control me. She collected men like me. Last time, I told you how I married a woman who could stop me with a whisper. How I woke up in places I didn't walk to. And how my own hand slapped me when I tried to resist her. But this time, you'll understand just how deep her control ran. Before I begin, drop your location. Where are you watching from? Your town, village, country. And if you haven't yet, subscribe and share this story. Because today, you'll hear what it means to lose your body, but still be alive inside. It started small. I'd stand to leave the hut, but my feet refused. I'd want to speak, but no words came. I would smile in public, even when I felt like dying inside. It was like someone else was driving me. I was still inside. Screaming, crying, struggling. But the outside was hers. One day at the market, I saw my cousin Tolu. He waved and called out, "Dayo. Long time. You don't come to the square anymore." I wanted to greet him. I really did. But instead, I walked right past him like I didn't know him. And worst of all, I smiled. I wanted to scream. To turn around and say, "It's me. Help me." But my lips curved upward. As if I was proud of the silence. That night, I tried something new. I began writing in a journal, hiding it under the floor mat. I wrote everything. When I blacked out. What she said. What I couldn't say. The dreams that didn't feel like dreams. And one night, I opened the journal. And saw a note in her handwriting. "I know. Keep writing." She wasn't stopping me. She was studying me. The dream started around this time. Dark forest. Red rivers. Men with hollow eyes, whispering, "She's learning." And always, a voice in the dark, saying, "You're not her husband. You're her student." I lost an entire day. I'd wake up and the sun would be lower in the sky than I remembered. I once woke up fully dressed, sitting beside the village river, with no memory of walking there. When I asked Erifa where I'd been, she said, "Erifa, you were with me." I said, "Doing what?" Erifa, "Being." And that was it. No detail. No explanation. Like I was just background. I went to feed Mama's goat. Simple task, right? But I brought water, and just stood there. For 30 minutes. The goat screamed. Thirsty. Dying. And I just stood, eyes open, water in my hand. Until Erifa appeared behind me and whispered, "Pour it." And suddenly, my hand moved. Just like that. Even kindness required her permission. The village began to talk louder. People said I moved like someone underwater. That I didn't respond when they waved. That I didn't blink enough. Someone even said they saw me at the shrine of forgotten gods at midnight. But I didn't remember that. Maybe I was sleepwalking. Maybe I was dreaming. But part of me knew. I wasn't in charge anymore. One night, I looked into our small metal mirror. And my reflection whispered back. "She's testing limits. You're not broken, yet." I jumped back, shaking. Was I mad? Or was someone, trying to help me? I ran to Mama again. I said, "Mama, I'm disappearing." "Mama, she hasn't taken all of you yet." I said, how do you know? Mama, because you still came here on your own 2 feet. She gave me a pouch of ash and bone. Hide this under your bed. If your body moves at night, this will show the footprints. I did as she said. That night, I slept like a rock. The next morning, I checked the pouch. The ash had been kicked across the room. Not by 1 set of feet, but 2. I hadn't walked alone. Next time, I'll tell you what I found in the locked box under her bed. And why it had pictures of men with their eyes scratched out. But before we get there, where are you watching from? Drop your country or hometown in the comments. And if this story has gripped you, subscribe and share it with someone who still believes control can be confused with love. Because sometimes, it starts with a whisper and ends with forgetting who you are. Last time, I told you how I married a woman who could stop me with a whisper. How I woke up in places I didn't walk to. And how my own hand slapped me when I tried to resist her. But this time, you'll understand just how deep her control ran. Before I begin, drop your location. Where are you watching from? Your town, village, country. And if you haven't yet, subscribe and share this story. Because today, you'll hear what it means to lose your body, but still be alive inside. It started small. I'd stand to leave the hut, but my feet refused. I'd want to speak, but no words came. I would smile in public, even when I felt like dying inside. It was like someone else was driving me. I was still inside. Screaming, crying, struggling. But the outside was hers. One day at the market, I saw my cousin Tolu. He waved and called out, Dayo. Long time. You don't come to the square anymore. I wanted to greet him. I really did. But instead, I walked right past him like I didn't know him. And worst of all, I smiled. I wanted to scream. To turn around and say, it's me. Help me. But my lips curved upward. As if I was proud of the silence. That night, I tried something new. I began writing in a journal, hiding it under the floor mat. I wrote everything. When I blacked out. What she said. What I couldn't say. The dreams that didn't feel like dreams. And one night, I opened the journal. And saw a note in her handwriting. I know. Keep writing. She wasn't stopping me. She was studying me. The dream started around this time. Dark forest. Red rivers. Men with hollow eyes, whispering, she's learning. And always, a voice in the dark, saying, you're not her husband. You're her student. I lost an entire day. I'd wake up and the sun would be lower in the sky than I remembered. I once woke up fully dressed, sitting beside the village river, with no memory of walking there. When I asked Erifa where I'd been, she said, Erifa, you were with me. I said, doing what? Erifa, being. And that was it. No detail. No explanation. Like I was just background. I went to feed Mama's goat. Simple task, right? But I brought water, and just stood there. For 30 minutes. The goat screamed. Thirsty. Dying. And I just stood, eyes open, water in my hand. Until Erifa appeared behind me and whispered, pour it. And suddenly, my hand moved. Just like that. Even kindness required her permission. The village began to talk louder. People said I moved like someone underwater. That I didn't respond when they waved. That I didn't blink enough. Someone even said they saw me at the shrine of forgotten gods at midnight. But I didn't remember that. Maybe I was sleepwalking. Maybe I was dreaming. But part of me knew. I wasn't in charge anymore. One night, I looked into our small metal mirror. And my reflection whispered back. She's testing limits. You're not broken, yet. I jumped back, shaking. Was I mad? Or was someone, trying to help me? I ran to Mama again. I said, Mama, I'm disappearing. Mama, she hasn't taken all of you yet. I said, how do you know? Mama, because you still came here on your own 2 feet. She gave me a pouch of ash and bone. Hide this under your bed. If your body moves at night, this will show the footprints. I did as she said. That night, I slept like a rock. The next morning, I checked the pouch. The ash had been kicked across the room. Not by 1 set of feet, but 2. I hadn't walked alone. Next time, I'll tell you what I found in the locked box under her bed. And why it had pictures of men with their eyes scratched out. But before we get there, where are you watching from? Drop your country or hometown in the comments. And if this story has gripped you, subscribe and share it with someone who still believes control can be confused with love. Because sometimes, it starts with a whisper and ends with forgetting who you are. I found a box filled with the faces of her past lovers. Eyes scratched out. Fates marked beneath their names. And under mine. Still learning. She wasn't just my wife. She was a student of control. Before we go deeper, where are you watching from? Your city, your village, your country? Drop it in the comments. And if this story has caught you in its grip, subscribe and share it with someone who still believes they'd never fall for someone like that. Because I thought the same. Until I met the man with one eye. I told Mama about the box. About the scratched out faces. The whispers. The spirits. Her lips tightened. Mama, you have to see him. I said, who? Mama, the elder. He lost one eye to her family. And the other, he gave to the gods. She gave me a string of black beads, tied around a single cowrie shell. Show him this. He'll know you come from the truth. They say he lives beyond the whispering hills, where birds don't fly and sound doesn't echo. It took 3 days' walk. And each night, I dreamed of rivers turning red. Men with cracked faces. And her, watching me through smoke. I reached the shrine at dawn. He was already waiting. He had no shirt. His skin was tattooed with markings from neck to toe. One eye gone, covered by a carved wooden disc. The other, sharp, piercing. Not of this world. Elder, you're late. I said, I came as fast as. Elder, don't explain. Sit. I sat. He didn't ask who sent me. Didn't ask why I was there. He just said, she's not just your wife. She's an echo of something older. Something ancient. Something broken. He told me a tale. Long ago, before our village had names, a woman named Tebozil fell in love with a river god. She married him in secret. But he betrayed her, left her childless, and cursed. So she did the unthinkable. She sacrificed her womb to bind her bloodline to one gift. Control. Every daughter born from her line would be able to command men. Not with charms. Not with spells. But with presence. With tone. With the mind. But there was a price. If any man truly broke free, the daughter of Tebozil would lose her power and her life. I said, so if I resist her, Elder, she dies. I said, and if I fail, Elder, you vanish. I sat there, silent. She wasn't just trying to control me. She was trying to survive. He held out a gourd. Drink. I did. Fire tore through my chest. I vomited. Fell. Screamed. Then, silence. And then I saw them. The men she'd taken before me. One whispered. You're the first who asked why. Another. You still have your name. Use it. When I woke, the elder was drawing symbols in the dirt. Elder, you must complete the ritual of 7 echoes. 7 trials. 7 ancestors. 7 truths. Only then will your soul resist her hand. I said, what happens if I fail? He smiled. You won't need to worry about that. Because you will no longer be you. On the walk home, I heard her voice. Not around me. Inside me. Why are you walking so far, Dayo? Who told you to leave me? You don't need him. You need me. I fell to my knees. Screamed into the air. I knew she couldn't be there. But her voice wrapped around my spine like smoke. When I returned, Mama was waiting. But she looked at me strangely. Like she couldn't see me clearly. I said, Mama. Mama, you're fading, son. That woman, she's pulling your shadow from your body. I said, what do I do? Mama, you must learn your name again. The name she cannot speak. I sat under the moonlight that night. Red string in my hand. Cowrie on my chest. Eyes closed. And I whispered to myself. My name is Dayo. I am not hers. I am not a remote. I am not a ghost. And in the wind, I heard the faintest whisper. Not yet. Next, I'll tell you how I began the ritual of the 7 echoes. And what I saw in the first vision. When my great-grandmother's spirit came to test me. But before then, tell me where you're watching from. Your town, your village, your continent. And if you believe this story should reach every soul who's ever lost themselves in love. Subscribe, and share it now. Because if you wait too long, you might forget who you are. I met the elder with a broken eye. He told me her power wasn't just learned, it was inherited. And if I ever wanted to be free, I'd have to complete the ritual of 7 echoes. But before I could even begin, I made a mistake. I tried to run. Before we go on, tell me. Where are you watching from? City, village, continent, drop it in the comments. And if this story has kept your soul in its grip, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to know. Control wears many faces. Some even smile. I didn't tell Mama. Didn't tell the elder. Didn't write it down. I just woke before dawn, packed salt, gari, water, and left. I told myself, if I can just make it past the 3 hills before the sun rises, I'll be out of her reach. I'll find a new life. Start over. I prayed. I walked. I ran. But after hours of climbing, sweating, and bleeding, I arrived back at the hut. Same door. Same silence. Same place. I tried again. This time I walked through the thick bush. Past torn trees. Past old goat paths no one used anymore. I saw new places. Smelled new flowers. But by sundown, same door. Same hut. I didn't just feel trapped. I felt returned. Like something had picked me up. And dropped me back where I belonged. Like a remote control. She was sitting on the floor mat, treading beats. Didn't even look up. Erefa, did you enjoy your walk? I said, you did this. Erefa, softly, you belong here. And your body knows it, even if your heart forgets. I said, I don't love you. Erefa, that's okay. You don't have to love me. You just have to stay. That night, I dreamed my legs were tied with rope. My hands were on fire. I ran across a field, screaming. But the rope didn't burn. Only me. At the edge of the field stood an old woman. She pointed at me and said, you didn't tie the rope. You grew into it. I returned to Mama one final time. Her face had grown pale. Weaker. Mama, every time you come here, part of you doesn't return. I said, she's draining me. Mama, then we must finish what we started. She handed me a small gourd of red earth mixed with goat blood. Smear this on your legs while standing in the moonlight. If she tries to move you, the earth will resist. That night, I smeared my legs. Waited for her to call me. And like clockwork, her whisper came. Come inside, Dayo. Come now. My arms obeyed. My spine bent forward. My chest moved. But my legs didn't move. They shook. But they stood. And for the first time, I felt the panic in her voice. She wasn't angry. She was scared. The next morning, my legs were covered in boils. Pulsing, angry. Like her power had fought me in my sleep. But I didn't scream. The pain was mine. And that meant I was still mine too. I saw a black crow on our roof. It tried to fly 3 times. But each time, it fell to the ground and screamed. Erifa stared at it for a long time. Then whispered something under her breath. The bird stopped moving. She didn't kill it. She unwheeled it. That's when I knew. She didn't control with force. She controlled with thought. I went into the storage room. Burned the TV remote. Smashed the actual radio. Crushed every object she ever controlled with. She walked in silently. Erifa, breaking things doesn't make you free. I said, then what does? Erifa, stopping the war inside. I said, you started that war. Erifa, no, Dayo. Your fear did. I sat on the hill at sunset. My legs still burned. My heart still ached. But when I stood without shaking. She was powerful. But I was beginning to remember myself. And in the far distance, I heard the one-eyed elder's voice. 1 echo passed. 6 to go. Don't stop walking. Next time, I'll tell you what happened during the first echo. When I met the spirit of my great-grandmother. And why did she slap me across the face? Before teaching me how to resist her bloodline's curse. But before that, tell me, where are you watching from? Leave a comment. Drop your town, your flag, or even your roots. If this story is teaching you something real, subscribe, share, and remember, some chains are built of rope, others of silence. I tried to run, but my legs refused. Because she didn't just own my body. She owned the path under my feet. And yet, that night, under moonlight and ash, I heard something no man had heard from her before. She spoke my real name. Not the one I told her. Not the one villagers call me. The name even I had forgotten. Before we begin, where are you watching from? Let me know in the comments. And if this story still has your spirit walking beside mine, subscribe and share it with someone who's ever lost themselves in someone else's shadow. 3 nights after I resisted her control, I returned to the elderly with a broken eye. He didn't greet me. Just handed me a bowl of oil, mixed with charcoal. Elder, smear this across your chest. Tonight, she'll call your soul. Don't answer. I said, why? Elder, because if she calls your real name, and you respond, you'll forget who you ever were. I slept outside. Oil on my chest. Rope of dry maize around my neck. Beads under my tongue. The night was silent. No frogs. No owls. Not even wind. Then, her voice. Oh, you were Dayo. That wasn't strange. But what came next? She whispered. Omo Agombied. EQNH. Son of Agombied's line. Lion who walks among witches, ****. And then, she said a name. Not Dayo. Not Ola. But a name I'd only heard once. When Mama was washing me as a boy. When she whispered into my ear. This name is yours alone. No one must ever speak it unless they mean to wake your spirit. Erifa spoke it. Perfectly. The moment she said it, my breath vanished. I choked, coughed, fell sideways into the dust. Not from pain, but from recognition. Like something inside me stood up and asked, "How does she know me?" That was the first echo. The test of name. And that night, I was pulled into the dream world again. But this time, it wasn't a nightmare. It was a memory. I saw myself as a baby, in Mama's arms. And 3 old women circled me, pouring honey on my tongue, whispering prayers into my belly button, marking my chest with ash and millet. I wasn't just any child. I was consecrated. Then, the air cracked. And from the shadows came a woman. Tall, dark-skinned, face full of tribal scars, eyes white with ash. She walked barefoot, carrying a clay pot. She looked at me and said, "I am Adesala, your father's grandmother. I carried war in my belly and peace on my tongue. And you, boy, you carry both." Then she slapped me hard. I said, "Why did you hit me?" "Adesala, to wake you. You let a woman bury your name inside her power. Now you must retrieve it." "Me, how?" "Adesala, with suffering." She poured something hot over my head. Suddenly, I saw every moment I said yes when I meant no. Every silence I offered her. Every truth I buried. It wasn't magic that bound me. It was the abandonment of myself. She handed me a calabash. Inside, red sand, a single kola nut, and a broken mirror. "Spit your real name into this. Then break the mirror." I spat. Whispered it. The mirror shattered. And instantly, I was standing back in my hut, covered in sweat. Erifa sitting by my feet, smiling. She leaned forward. "Erifa, did you enjoy the dream?" I said, "You saw it." "Erifa, I shaped it. But I didn't expect you to break the mirror." I stood. Strong. Still shaking. "But I'm awake." She'd found my name. But now, I knew it too. And that made us equal. For the first time. That night, I burned the cloth I wore the day we married. Dug up the box of scratched-out men. And spoke each of their names back into the night. Because if names are stolen, we must return them. And when I closed my eyes, I heard the elder whisper in the wind. One echo passed. "Now you know who you are. But do you know what you carry?" Next, I'll tell you about the second echo. When the voice of the unborn called me into the forest of the forgotten. And I had to choose between a child I never knew and the man I was becoming. But before that, where are you watching from? Drop it in the comments. And if this story is waking something inside you, subscribe and share it with someone who's forgotten how to stand up inside their own name. Because your name isn't just identity. It's resistance. She spoke the name I never told anyone. The name Mama whispered into my skin as a child. The name I forgot. But I remembered. I remembered. And when I shattered that mirror in the dream world, she lost something too. But power never disappears. It only hides. And now it was calling me into the forest where forgotten things go. Before we start, drop your location in the comments. Tell me, where are you watching from? Your town, city, or country? And if this story still has you walking beside me in the dark, subscribe and share it with someone who's lost their voice inside someone else's tongue. That night, I dreamed again. But this time, I was not asleep. The walls of our hut disappeared. The floor turned to red sand. The sky, black as goat's blood. And in the distance, a single tree. Dead. Crooked. Covered in baby clothes and rusted chains. At its base, a child. He couldn't have been older than 5. Skin like soot. Eyes hollow. No mouth. He didn't speak with voice. He spoke into my head. You left me. You let her take me. You promised I'd be born. I fell to my knees. Was this, my child? And then the vision came. I and Erifa. Months after our wedding. She held something in her hand. A pot. Cracked. Leaking blood. I said, what is that? Erifa, a cleansing. I said, of what? Erifa, possibility. And then I knew. She ended something. Before I even knew it had begun. The tree paused. The roots trembled. And from the branches fell names. Dozens. Hundreds. All of them scratched into bark, fading into dust. The child pointed at one name. Enlightened. That was the name Mama once said she would give a grandchild. I wept. The child whispered. You can carry me with you. Or you can bury me here forever. I asked. What happens if I carry you? You never feel whole. But you never forget. And if I bury you, you'll be free. But hollow. I picked up the child. He was light as air. Yet his weight crushed my chest. Because I didn't just carry a soul. I carried a possibility. A life unchosen. A wound left open. And as I walked out of that forest, I heard the tree whisper. One more echo passed. I woke up with my hands around my chest. Tears drying on my neck. And on my lap, a single baby's bracelet. Woven with red and gold thread. She couldn't stop the echo. But she left a scar to remind me. I still belong to her shadows. That night, she sat by the window. Didn't speak. Just stared at the moon and wept. I asked. I said, what did you lose? Erifa, a promise. I said, whose? Erifa, mine. Yours. Hi. She never said the child's name. But her silence was loud enough. Adesola came again in my dream. Adesola, now you carry the loss. I said, yes. Adesola, good. Only those who know grief can survive power. Are you ready for the third echo? What is it? She leaned in. Smiled. The day you betrayed yourself. I buried the bracelet under the moon tree. Lit a candle. Spoke nothing. Just breathed. Sometimes the worst pain isn't what happened. It's what never got the chance to begin. Next, I'll tell you what I saw in the third echo. The day I first bowed to her. And called it love. But before that, where are you watching from? Let me know in the comments. And if this story is unearthing ghosts inside you too, subscribe, share, and never forget. Some scars aren't proof of pain. They are proof you chose to remember. I entered the forest of the forgotten. Met a child I never knew I lost. And carried him with me. Not in my arms, but in my spirit. But now came the hardest echo of all. Not a curse. Not a spirit. Not even Erifa's voice. This time, I had to confront my own betrayal. The day I called it love. When really, I had just surrendered. Tell me, where are you watching from tonight? What village? What city? What land do you carry in your name? Drop it in the comments. And if this story has made you feel something raw, subscribe, and share it with someone who's ever mistaken control for love. Adesola returned in my dream. This time, she stood in front of a doorway made of bones. Behind it, memory. Adesola, inside lies the moment you surrendered. Not with fear, but with longing. I said, longing for what? Adesola, to be loved. Even if it wasn't real. She opened the door. I saw myself. Newly married. sitting by Erifa's feet. She massaged my shoulders. Feed me fried yam. Laughed at my jokes even when they were empty. I looked happy. But I could hear my thoughts from that time. She chooses my clothes. She chooses my words. But maybe this is how love is supposed to feel. Maybe real men let themselves be led. She told me to stop seeing my old friends. They distract you. They don't love you like I do. I'm your circle now. I agreed. She asked me to stop visiting Mama so often. She's weakening your spirit. Always crying, always doubting. She doesn't believe in our bond. I nodded. I called it protection. I called it maturity. But it was isolation. The day I saw her burn my only journal, I didn't speak. She said, "It's better not to remember who you were. You belong now." I smiled. I even thanked her. Because deep down, I wanted someone to shape me. To define me. To say, "You are enough because I say so." But I forgot. Control dressed as comfort is still control. I remember the night of the festival. I wanted to dance with the villagers. Laugh. Be free. She held my arm and whispered, "You don't need their eyes. Dance for me." I nodded. Danced in the shadows. Eyes only on her. That was the night I stopped dancing for myself. She gave me a chain on my birthday. Gold. Beautiful. But on the back, engraved in tiny letters, "Belongs to E." I cried when she gave it to me. Not out of joy. Out of relief. Because someone finally said, "You are mine." And I mistook possession for love. Back in the spirit realm, I screamed. Why did I do it? Why did I let her in? Why did I need to be controlled? Adesola answered calmly. Adesola, because even warriors want to rest. And she offered you rest disguised as affection. But real love doesn't bind. It builds. I saw a vision of my younger self. Holding prayer beads from Popo's funeral. Clutching them tight. Erifa once took them. Said, "You pray too much. You think too hard. Let me be your peace." I let her. And in doing so, I buried the boy I used to be. Adesola lit a fire in the spirit world. Throw your chain in. Not hers. Yours. I pulled the memory of that gold necklace from my chest. Still warm. Still heavy. I threw it into the fire. And for the first time in years, I could breathe. I woke up with ash on my chest. And a tiny whisper in my ear. "You're learning, Dayo." I didn't know if it came from her. Or from myself. But I stood. And for the first time in a long time, I stood alone. Next, I'll show you what I saw in the fourth echo. The echo of the first lie she ever told. And why I chose to believe it anyway. But before that, tell me, where are you watching from? Village, city, coast, diaspora, drop it in the comments. If this story is shaking the walls inside you, subscribe, and share it with someone who still calls chains a gift. Because love without freedom isn't love at all. I remember the day I called it love. When I gave her my silence, my friends, my family. And wore the chain of belonging with pride. But memory is a layered forest. And the deeper I walked, the older the roots became. So I asked myself, what was the first lie? Not the biggest. Not the loudest. Just the first crack. The one I ignored. Before we begin, where are you watching from? Leave your country, your town, your flag in the comments. And if this story is still keeping your heart in its fist, subscribe, and share it with someone who ignored the lie that started everything. The elder returned to me in a dream. But this time, it wasn't Adesola who guided me. It was a man. Skin like coal. Eyes like mirrors. He wore a black scarf tied around his neck. Stranger, I am Bamedil. Your father's twin. He died before you were born. Because of her kindness. I said, you knew her. Bamedil, not her. One of her bloodlines. And like you. I believed her first lie. The memory hit me like thunder in the dry season. Early days. Before the marriage. When I still had my own laughter. My own time. She came to my door with a gift. A red thread, twisted with tiny black feathers. Erefa, it's just a token. I said, what does it mean? Erefa, nothing. It's just for luck. I smiled. Wait. But I didn't ask where it came from. Didn't ask why the feathers itched when I put it on. That night, I dreamed of a python under my bed. It didn't move. Just stared. And in the corner of the room. Erefa. Smiling. When I woke, the red thread was burning hot. But still, I kept it on. Because love makes you ignore strange things. At first. In the spirit realm, Bamedil led me to a small hut. Inside were bones. Old. Dry. Twisted around a red cloth. Bamedil, she gave me a red necklace. Said it would keep me safe. Said it came from her grandmother's shrine. I said, what happened? Bamedil, it did keep me safe. From everyone. Except her. That was the first lie. The lie of protection. Erefa once made pepper soup when I was sick. She placed her palm on my chest and said something under her breath. I remember asking. What language was that? She smiled. Just something old. A joke. You leave. And I did leave. But I also started forgetting things. Little things. Like where I kept my keys. Or what Mama told me last. And I laughed. Said it was just stress. But it was her. Pulling threads. I once caught her mixing something in my stew. She said. It's for energy. Traditional herbs. You work so hard. Let me take care of you. That night I couldn't sleep. My dreams were too still. Too quiet. And in the morning, I couldn't remember the argument we had the day before. Only her kiss on my forehead. Bamedil leaned close. Bamedil, lies don't always shout. Sometimes, they sing lullabies. She didn't press you all at once. She turned you off, one button at a time. One day, I found them. Tiny teeth. Wrapped in black cloth. Tied under her pillow. I asked. What is this? She said. They're for luck. From children in the family. It's a cultural thing. Don't overthink it, my love. You trust me, don't you? And I did. I buried my questions. Laughed again. That was the third lie. It's nothing. You're overthinking. Before Bamedil disappeared into mist, he said. Your biggest betrayal wasn't what she did. It's what you let her do. What you explained away. But if you survive all 7 echoes, you won't just free yourself. You'll end it for the next one she tries to press. And with that, he was gone. That night, I burned the red thread. Alone. And in the smoke, I saw her face flicker. Not angry. Not hurt. Just watching. Maybe she knew the first lie would be small. That it had to be small. Because small lies are the ones we let in the easiest. And once you make room for one, you've already given up the remote. Next, I'll share the 5th echo. When she made me believe I couldn't live without her. And how I nearly died proving her right. But before we go, where are you watching from? Drop your city, your soil, your ancestors' name in the comments. And if this story is lighting fires in your memories, subscribe and share it with someone who needs to remember. The first lie is never the last one. I survived the first lie. The lost child. The name ritual. The echoes of memory. I walked through forest of forgetting. Carried ancestors, ghosts, and silence. But the last chain. It wasn't on my wrist. It wasn't around my neck. It was in my own heart. Because she made me believe I'd break without her. And for a long, long time, I believed it too. Before we begin, tell me one last time. Where are you watching from? Leave your city, your village, your spirit's home in the comments. And if this story has walked with you all the way to this final hour, subscribe and share it with someone who needs to see what true freedom looks like. I woke up in the dream realm. No elder. No ancestors. No forest. Just silence. And a single table. With 2 cups. One filled with black water. One filled with gold sand. Then she appeared. Not angry. Not commanding. Just, soft. Erefa, sit. She pushed the gold cup toward me. Drink this, and I'll give you everything. No more dreams. No more pain. Just warmth. Peace. Us. Me, and the black one. She smiled. That one is freedom. But it comes with everything you buried. The child. Your father. Your fear. The broken man. And no me. I stared at the gold. It glowed like the fire of ancestors. It smelled like mama's too. It sounded like every praise I ever longed to hear. I wanted it. I ached for it. Because I was tired. Of fighting. Of dreaming. Of bleeding. She saw it. And whispered. You don't have to be strong without me. You don't even know how. I remember the time I was sick for 2 weeks. She nursed me. Fed me. Bathed me. Prayed over me. And then whispered. No one else would do this for you. Only me. And I believed her. I tied my survivor to her hands. Just before I touched the golden cup, a hand grabbed my wrist. Bamedil. His body was ash. Eyes cracked open like firewood. Bamedil, she's not wrong. You don't know how to live without her. Yet. But the fact that she had to make you believe that means she was always afraid of who you'd be without her. I turned to Erefa. I said, what happens if I walk away? Erefa, you'll grieve. You'll wonder. You'll ache. I said, and then. Erefa, softly, then you remember who you were before I whispered doubt into you. I picked up the black water. It smelled like soil. Tasted like metal. Burned my throat. And instantly, I felt everything. The grief. The rage. The shame. The silence. The chains. And then, I felt nothing. I woke up on the floor of the hut. Alone. The house was empty. No footsteps. No cooking. No breathing. On the wall, written in ash. If you ever return, bring only the truth. My legs trembled. But they moved. Not from control. From memory. I walked barefoot. Over stones. Through silence. Into home. Mama opened the door and said nothing. She just wept. And I wept too. Because I survived. Not because I was strong. But because I chose to remember myself. I planted a tree near Mama's compound. Named it enlightened. Not just for the child I lost. But for the man I became. And every morning, I sit under that tree. And whisper my name. Not for her. Not for you. For me. This was my journey. From control to clarity. From silence to voice. From pressed to free. Tell me, where are you watching from? Drop your roots in the comments. And if this story has worked with your spirit, subscribe. Share it with someone who needs to remember that love is not ownership. Because freedom doesn't come when they stop pressing. It comes when you stop responding.